Hello, it's Dean Z speaking to you from my basement. Today, I want to talk to you about resumes. Got a great question in the YouTube comments from Rachel Martin saying, how do you balance when you're a law school applicant? How do you balance the suggestion or the request from a school like Michigan that we want to know all about you, tell us everything, more, with the general advice that a resume be brief and to the point? This is an excellent question, so let's dive in. First of all, I think the advice that a resume be one page is excellent in the employment context, but it is not necessarily useful in the law school application process. So now, with a caveat here, if you're applying to a school and it says, give us a one-page resume, do that. But if they don't say anything, you are safe in having it be 2 pages. Beyond that, maybe not. If you've got 10, 15 years of work experience, maybe that makes sense. Otherwise, you can probably keep it to 2 pages. I know I'm 173,000 years old myself, and my resume is 2 pages, so you could probably do that too. But it's all a question, of course, of judgment and editing. So we'll talk a little bit about what to leave in, what to leave out, and don't feel like you have to go to 2 pages just to make it look like you have a lot of experience, like big white spaces to get it to go to 2 pages. That's not going to be helpful or necessary. Let's start with format. Different industries have different preferences, different sort of traditions about what resumes look like. If you just Google legal format resume, you'll come up with some ideas of the kind of format that a law school is expecting to see. Some industries I know have photographs on them, have colorful fonts, interesting fonts, all sorts of things like that. But lawyers were kind of uptight. So, black and white and something normal font-wise and no photos. And also, I will say this too, sometimes people have an objective at the top of their resume, which is common for many job hunting types of resumes. I know your objective. You're applying to law school. Don't need to include that. And it's also, just as a general matter, not something that we use in legal job hunting for some reason. So no objective in there. You already saved yourself some space. Also on format, I would say make it be a normal font size and normal margins. This is one good reason why I say definitely feel okay about spilling onto 2 pages if that makes sense with your particular content, because a tiny font, everything all crammed up, that is really hard to read, and you're not endearing yourself to the reader when you do that. So, feel free to space it normally and don't worry about it going on to 2 pages. In terms of what to include, first thing is, for the most part, you want to start life at college for what you put on your resume. Really don't need to have activities or achievements from the high school years. Every once in a while, there's an exception to that. Like suppose you had a job that started in high school and that you continued all through college. Well, that would be included, that start date. Or suppose you have some hobby or activity that you've engaged in for years and years and years. That might be worth diving back into the high school years to include. But for the most part, start with freshman year of college and move on from there. In terms of what to include, as I've said many times before, we are very interested in who you are. Give us a context for all the other information that is in your application. So for college, even if you're a few years out, it is helpful for us to understand what kinds of activities were you involved in college. So, make sure your extracurriculars, any sports, whether it's intramural or varsity, make sure that is all on there. Have us understand the context in which you were getting the grades that you got, in which you were, having whatever achievements or attainments that you had in college. Let us know what else was going on around you at that time. Another thing that is very helpful to include that people often leave off is details of your jobs. So as a lawyer and someone in the legal industry, I'm pretty familiar with the most common legal employers. So I know what legal aid is. I know what the ACLU is. I know what the biggest law firms are. But if you give me a, law firm name of Zierfoss, Zierfoss, and Zierfoss, I don't know what they do. Are they doing criminal defense? Are they doing personal bankruptcies? I kind of want to know what is your background? What have you been exposed to so far? So make sure you include that information about your employer in addition to, the most significant of your duties. By same token, we're getting applications from people who've worked in all sorts of industries, not just the legal industry. So if you've worked for a company that is as famous as, I don't know, Apple or Google, I'm going to know what it does. But otherwise, it would be really helpful if you tell me, what your background is, what that company is doing, so I can really get a sense of who you are. Don't just leave it to me to guess. Along those same lines, if you're telling me, I already said, tell me about your extracurriculars. Sometimes extracurriculars in colleges have quirky names. So this is an example I like to give. There's a college in Michigan that I get a lot of applications from, not the University of Michigan, but another one. And for maybe the first 3 or 4 years that I was in this job, I would see that people applying from there would talk about the Mustache Society, and they never said what it was. And I don't know. I mean, I just envisioned that it was some kind of group of people who were had great handlebar mustaches or something. I had no idea. And then finally someone defined it, and it turns out that it was a group for men involved in anti-domestic violence work. So that is a great group, very interesting. And the first 4 years of people who were involved with it did not get full credit for me because I did not know what they were talking about. So if it's something mysterious in its name, make sure you define it. Okay, so things to omit. I already talked about begin life with college. Don't need to go into the distant past to let me know about you. And that saves you some space. Also, even though I've just told you to tell me about, the employer that you have and what kind of industry it is involved in, many jobs are very straightforward. So if you have a waitressing gig and you tell me that that's your title, you don't need to tell me that you were taking people's orders and serving the food. I know what waitresses do. So you can save yourself a little space that way. You need to, as with all parts of your application, you need to step back and think, what is going to be obvious to the reasonably well-informed reader of this application, and what is going to be mysterious. And you let me know about the mysterious stuff, and you leave out the obvious stuff. Okay. I think that kind of covers resumes. Let me know if you have other questions, but otherwise let us move on to the grammar portion. The grammar topic today was suggested by alum John Vandeventer, who says he hates the word notwithstanding, and he tries never to use it because he is always afraid he's going to mix up what controls what in a contract or other legal document. And I agree. Notwithstanding is a kind of a weird, and I don't know, just it's like notwithstanding, like all these words shoved together. To what end? It just means in spite of. So maybe, John, you should just use in spite of, or maybe you just remember to yourself in spite of, and then you will feel braver about using notwithstanding. Also means the same thing as nevertheless. But also, when I think about it, nevertheless is kind of a weird word too. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to just praise John for his self-awareness of not feeling confident in using the word, and say, in general, if you don't feel confident about using a word, don't. Okay. I think that's all I have to say today. Thank you very much for watching. Would love to hear your feedback and your suggestions. Please let us know in the comments below what other topics you'd like to see us address. And I don't know why I said us, because it's me. So let me know what you want me to address. Send an email to law.jd.admissions@umich.edu and put vlog in the subject line. And if you found this helpful, you may want to check out my admissions blog. There's a link below. Finally, thank you as always to Dustin Johnston, who was recently elected king of the law school. Wherever you go, go blue.